Cartier collection started in 1983. Now it's composed of more than 1,500 pieces between jewelry, clocks and watches, precious objects and leather goods. So here we have a sample of our production through the 20th century and even the beginning of the 21st century. All these examples of watches show what Cartier brought into the world of watchmaking, and specifically the work on shapes. Because I think what makes a Cartier watch different is really the work on shape and design. Even in a pocket watch, even before the invention of a design wristwatch by Cartier in 1904 for Mr. Santos Dumont, pocket watches at Cartier were not round. And you had that very inventive shape, which is a square with round angles. And when you see the Santos watch, it's a creation of the 1980s, but in the spirit of the one of 1910, and you see that you have that heritage of a square shape with round angles for the very first design for a wristwatch. So here you see all the different kinds of shapes. One of the most important shape also brought by Cartier into the world of watchmaking, which is the tank shape. This is called a tank normal. In fact, the name tank normal came after the tank Louis Cartier was created in 1922, because the first tank was like this. And the other versions obliged our creators to find the name of the very first one. So the tank was logically the tank in 1917 was named the tank normal. Tank normal, it means that you have a square dial within a rectangular shape, and you have those two parallel lines that makes the purest shape possible for a watch. Here it has a play on that vocabulary. Roman numerals are extra elongated, the dial is even bigger. You see also in a different exercise, what makes the Cartier style unique is a certain sense of proportion. There's that sense of well-balanced volume and shapes. And that's a characteristic really of all the Cartier creation. And that kind of originality or extravagance can go to that kind of watch, because of course the original shape was a regular oval, so it can be elongated and it can be also crashed. That was the case in 1967 when that shape was created, inspired by a real crashed watch that came back to the repair department in London. And this is really something very original. This is a very interesting watch. The pebble, the dial of course is like a losange in the middle of a round shape. The round lines and volume, that idea of very comfortable case on your wrist. The centric came in the 20s. We wanted to work in a bigger shape. And if you want to work in a bigger shape, you're preoccupied by comfort and convenience. And that's how it was invented. But the centre, of course, of the mid-20s was not totally waterproof. So it allowed it to make it very, very thin. And that was the elegance also of a watch till today. One element to say that a shape is strong relies in its capacity to evolve. And here you see the example of a variation of a tank. And the shape is still there, the proportions can be different, the interpretations can be different, but the shape is still there. So that's how, at Cartier, we recognize a strong design in its capacity to evolve and to give birth to different interpretations. The same thing for Santos. I would like to take the example of the Santos watch that was redesigned in 1978, including a metal bracelet. And the work that was done is very interesting because the Santos watch, at the very beginning, showed the screws on the bezel. And the idea in 78 was to use that idea of the visible screws as a motif of a bracelet. At the beginning of the 20th century, those objects were popular among a minority of people. Today, more and more people are interested in watches, but with different criteria. The idea of elegance is not shared by everybody on the planet, and that makes the Cartier watches interesting only for the people who share a certain notion of elegance.